Welcome to Module 2, Managing and Provisioning Solution Infrastructure. In this module, you'll explore the scope of tasks involved in managing and provisioning Simple Direct's solution infrastructure in Google Cloud, which corresponds to Section 2 of the Professional Cloud Architect exam guide. We will start by discussing some of the considerations involved in configuring Simple Direct's infrastructure. Next, you'll assess your skills in this section through 10 diagnostic questions. Then we'll review the questions. Based on the area you need to learn more about, you'll identify resources to include in your study plan. Let's begin by exploring the role of professional cloud architect in provisioning and deploying solution on Google Cloud that meets Simple Direct's requirement. As a professional cloud architect, you need to understand the cloud computing services available, how to configure them, and most importantly, how to select the right service for the task at hand. You already chose network, compute, and storage resource for Simple Direct Cloud solution. Now your task is to determine how to use those resources optimally for Simple Direct needs. It's important to understand the scope of the configuration choices that you have to make as a professional cloud architect, because they will determine how to best use the resources available to you in Google Cloud. It often helps to start with the broad approach and decide what product you'd like to use, like we did in the last module. Next, focus on different products, services, and practices to decide how to best implement them in Google Cloud. Although many architects are competent in many technical areas, you're not an implementation engineer or data engineer. For example, as a professional cloud architect, you might decide to configure one service account for read-only access to Spanner and a separate service account for writes. However, designing and configuring database schema is more appropriate to a data or implementation engineer. So you would not make those configuration decisions unless this is also your role. To get feedback on Simple Direct delivery by joint initiative, you decided to meet with some of the pilots. One complaint was that occasional latency was caused slow joint response to commands sent by pilots. You realized that the service was initially set up with DNS load balancing to ensure traffic could easily be sent to a second region. But this resulted in some traffic being sent to location further away. You decided to move to a global external application load balancer and use a custom network with only nearby region to ensure high latency when streaming data from the drone. You look at default and auto mode network, but realize that the custom mode network would prevent the network from deploying resources to regions with high latency, and choose the global external application load balancer because it gave a single global IP address, which route traffic to the closest backend. Not using the default network meant that you actively had to configure your firewall rules and not just inherit the default rule for HTTP, HTTPS, ICMP, SSH, and RDP. After making the decision to use custom mode networks instead of default network, you decide to ensure that this practice is followed by configuring an organization policy constraint. You decided to set two constraint policy: compute.skip default network creation and compute.restrict shared VPC subnetworks. This will prevent the default network from being created for new project and ensure that resources are only deployed to approved subnet, reducing the possibility of drone pilots experiencing latency. For more information on organizing policy constraint, see our online documentation. SimpleDirect had decided to deploy container to Cloud Run for new services to address the technical requirement to standardize on container and favor managed services. You looked at GKE, Compute Engine, and Enthos and chose to use a mix of compute options. Because SimpleDirect wants to ensure their applications scale with minimum latency, you decide to configure Cloud Run with relatively high number of minimum instances. This reduces the number of cold start by ensuring that SimpleDirect has container available to facilitate new requests. Cloud Run is the preferred option. However, GKE lets SimpleDirect lift and shift the application from the existing environment. Compute Engine let SimpleDirect use existing monolithic applications that would run on VMs, while still providing the benefit of Google Cloud scalability, programmatic access, and low cost. For deployments that have stateful information such as databases, or where the developer prefers to preserve their existing workflow, you have chosen to leverage GKE for their website frontend and pilot and truck management system running on Kubernetes. You have also decided to leverage GKE auto-scaling features and reuse many of the same deployments from your previous Kubernetes clusters. This allows your developers to preserve their existing workflow, continue to use kube control, and met business and technical watch points to favor managed services and ensure scalability. For their Compute Engine instances, you have decided to use Managed Instance Group with shielded VMs. SimpleDirect looked at unmanaged instance groups, but their application wouldn't be as scalable and would cost more money unnecessarily. Because SimpleDirect used Ubuntu for their existing API server and SUSE for the new social media integration service, you realize that they could deploy these applications as shielded VM and get an extra security benefits. SimpleDirect wants to store video of drone-based delivery for review and future analysis. You looked at file store and cloud storage, but you chose cloud storage because of its scalability, its ability to reduce costs by changing storage classes, and because the data stored is not relational or structured. Storing drone-based video data is a new service, so you spoke with the developers about how often you thought they would need access to archival video. Because the developer do not know how often the data will be read, you decide to start writing data to a standard storage. The developers expect a large amount of video data. Therefore, you recommend a life cycle policy to delete video after 30 days. Developers can copy specific videos that they want to retain to another bucket. You explain to developers that if they need to retain video for additional time, you can change lifecycle management policy to set data to a less expensive tier of storage based on how frequently the video need to be accessed. It's your turn to assess your experience and skills related to this section with some diagnostic question. Remember, These questions are intended to help you understand and diagnose which area you want to focus on in your study plan, so we don't expect you to know all the answers yet. Please complete the diagnostic questions that are presented next. If your learning platform doesn't support assessment, kindly use your course workbook. Okay, let's go into the diagnostic questions without much knowledge, without much studying first. Okay. Okay, let's get started. You're working with a client who has built a secure messaging application. Application is open source and consists of two components. First component is a web app written in Go, which is used to register an account and authorize the user's IP address. Second is encrypted chat protocol. Use TCP to talk to backend chat server using Debian. If the client's IP address doesn't match the registered IP address, application designed to terminate their session. The number of clients using the service varies greatly based on time of the day, and the client wants to be able to easily scale as needed. What should you do? Deploy the application using App Engine standard environment with global external application. Use managed instance groups for the backend chat server. Use global external load balancer with SSL to load balance traffic through the backend as deploy the web application using standard environment with a global external application, load balancer, a network endpoint group. Use managed instance group for backend chat server. Use external pass-through network load balancer to load balance traffic across backend. This seems to be it. Let's take a look first. Deploy web application using web engine flexible environment. Deploy the web application app engine standard environment with the global external application, load balancer, and the network endpoint group. Use an unmanaged service group. No, it shouldn't be unmanaged. Okay, I'll pick this one. Second, simple direct user account management app allows users to delete their account whenever they like. Simple Direct also have very generous 60-day return policy for user. The customer service team wants to make sure they can still refund and replace item for a customer even if the customer's account has been deleted. What can you do to ensure the customer service team has access to relevant account information? Restore the previous copy of the user from a snapshot. Have a database administrator capture needed information about a customer. Disable the account, export account information to cloud storage. Have customer service team permanently delete the data after 30 days. What? That's 60 days. It's nothing about 30 days. Ensure that the user clearly understands that if they delete the account, all the information will be deleted. Remind them to download a copy of their audit history or account information before delete the account. Not really. Temporarily disable the account for 30 days. Export account information to cloud storage. Enable lifecycle management to delete. This is the right one. Simple Direct wants to create pipeline to automate building of new application releases. What sequence of steps should you use? Set up a source code repository, check in code, run unit test, build a Docker container, deploy. Check in code. How do you check in code without setting up this is wrong. Run what you set up? No, this is you don't set up source code repository the last, so it need to be A or D. Set up, run unit test, check in code. As developer, you should set up code resource source code repository. You check in code consistently, frequently, immediately, and then run unit tests, and then make changes and checking more code until unit test is done. Build a Docker container, deploy. So A is right. Simple Direct wants the layered approach to security when setting up compute engine instances. What are some options you could use to make your compute engine instance more secure? Use network tags to allow traffic only from certain sources in port. Okay. Use a compute engine service account. Use network tag to allow traffic from certain source. Turn on secure boot and VTPM. Use label to allow traffic only for certain label. Use a compute engine. Use label to allow, I think is B. Simple Direct must meet compliance requirements. You need to ensure the employee with valid account cannot access their VPC network from location outside of secure network, corporate network, including from home. You also want a high degree of visibility into network traffic for auditing and forensic purposes. What should you do? Enable VPC service control and use Google Cloud Observability to view audit log for the network you need to monitor. B. Enable identity-aware proxy to allow user to access services securely. Use Google Cloud Observability to view audit log for the network you need to monitor. Enable VPC service control. Define the network parameter to restrict access to authorized network and enable VPC flow log for the network you need to monitor. C seems to be right. D. Ensure that all users install Google Cloud VPN and enable VPC log for the network you need to monitor. C is correct. Enable VPC service control. Define the network parameter to restrict access to authorized network and enable VPC flow log for the network you need to monitor. Question number 6. You have deployed your front-end web application in Kubernetes. Based on historical use, you need 3 pods to handle normal demand. Occasionally, your load will roughly double. A load balancer is already in place. How could you configure your environment to efficiently meet that demand? Use kube control auto scale command to change the pods maximum number instant to 6. Edit the configuration. No. Edit your pods configuration file and change the number of replicas to 6. No. D. Use the kube control auto scale command and change deployment's maximum number of instance to 6. D seems to be right. Simple Direct wants to allow partners to make orders programmatically without having to speak on the phone with an agent. What should you consider when designing the API. The API backend should be loosely coupled. A. Clients should not be required to know too many details on the service they use. For REST API, HTTPS is the most common protocol. The API backend should be tightly coupled. Clients should know a significant amount about services they use. REST API use gRPC should be used for all external API. API backend should be loosely coupled. Clients should not be required to know too many details of the servers they use. REST API use gRPC should be used for all external API. The API backend should be tightly coupled. Client should use, tightly coupled should be eliminated. So it's either 1A or C. So common HTTP is the most common protocol, is right. So A is correct. Question number 8. Simple Direct need to use a tool to deploy the infrastructure. You want something that allows for repeatable deployment processes, uses a decorative languages, and allow parallel deployment. You also want to deploy infrastructure as code on Google Cloud and other cloud providers. What should you do? Use Google Kubernetes engine to create platforms, to create deployment and manifest for your application. GKEs are only for Google Cloud, and we're talking about the keywords other cloud provider. Question B, automate the deployment with deployment manager. Answer C, deploy in Docker container for portability and ease of deployment. This sounds correct. D, automate deployment with Terraform. Terraform is not for this. So C should be the correct answer. Question number 9, you need to deploy the load balancer for a web-based application with multiple backend in different regions. You want to direct traffic to backend closest to the end user, but you also to different backend based on URL the user is accessing. Which of the following could be used to implement this? Answer A, the request is matched by URL map and then sent to a proxy network load balancer. Global forwarding rule send the request to a target proxy, which select a backend service and send the request to compute engine instance group in multiple regions. The request is met. Answer B, the request is matched by URL map and then sent to global external application load balancer. A global forwarding rule send the request to a target proxy, which select a backend service. The backend service send the request to compute engine instance group in multiple regions. Answer C, the request is received by the global external application load balancer. Global forwarding rules send a request to a target proxy, which check the URL map and select the backend service. The backend service send the request to compute engine instant group in multiple regions. This sounds logical and correct. D, the request is received by the proxy network load balancer. No, it's not right. So I will select C. Number 10, your existing application run on Ubuntu Linux VM in on-premises hypervisor. You want to deploy the application in Google Cloud with minimum refactoring. What should you do? As a isolated core feature that application provide. Use app ending to deploy each feature independently as. Let me read this again. Your existing application run on Ubuntu Linux VM in an on-premises hypervisor. You want to deploy the application on Google Cloud with minimum refactoring. What should you do? Isolate the core feature that application provide. Use App Engine to deploy each feature independently as microservices. Set up a Google Kubernetes Engine cluster and then create a deployment with the autoscaler. This has nothing to do with auto-scaling, so B is eliminated. Use a dedicated or partner interconnect to connect the on-premises network where your application is running to your VPC. Configure the endpoint for a global external application load balancer that connect to the existing VM. What? Write Terraform script to deploy the application as compute engine instances. I would pick A. Isolate the core features. This might be requiring refactoring though, isn't it? I'll stay with A. Let's see how it goes. Submit. You score 80%. Passing score. Oh, which one is wrong? Oh, no. What? Incorrect. Docker container makes deploy in code much easier, but do not manage or orchestrate the process themselves. This is a tool like Kubernetes is for. What? Your existing application runs on isolate. Okay. Changing incorrect. Changing from a virtual machine based application deployment to app will probably require refactoring. Yeah, that's what I thought. But then probably this one. Probably C. Yeah, I think it's C. Oh man, I need to be very careful about this. Anyway, I passed this and we'll continue on. We will now review the diagnostic question and our answers to help me identify what to include in your study plan. The diagnostic question align with these objectives of this exam. One is configuring network topologies. Second is configuring individual storage system. Third is configuring computer systems. Use the PDF resource that follow to review the questions and how you answer them. Pay specific attention to the rationale for both the correct and incorrect answer. Use the resource detail under where to look and content mapping to build a study plan that meets your learning needs. Okay, so this is the module 2 PDF. We'll have another time to review the whole PDF This is 26 pages. Save it. Oh. Okay, and next. Okay, now let's check. 50%. Which storage class should you use for data that is going to be accessed at least once every 2 weeks? That is standard. Which network which network configuration would ensure low latency for US drone pilot? Deploy resource globally. Well, we don't need globally. Only deploy resources to regions in the US. Yeah, that's what I think. That's okay. Yep. This is easy one. So next. Oh, this is Model 3. We'll get to the next video for this one.